Hi everyone, welcome back. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some ideas on the management side and what managers think about as people will elevate in this class and hopefully down the road after you graduate and get into management roles or look for a leadership role. And I take a lot of this from experience that I had working in the Commonwealth and bring it into the class along with some text. This philosophy and kind of idea comes from the IT Manager's Handbook, one of the ones that I use in the graduate course and like to refer to. It's a pretty good piece. But if we think about it, there are key areas of evaluation that we can look at with human capital. I use the word human capital because in organizations, humans are capital. They are employees. They are part of some costs that you actually have to have, like a chair. Most things today can be done in manufacturing robotics, so things are going away with that, and we'd have to look at it differently, especially in the IT world. But there's kind of five areas of measurement that I've always used and brought into a rubrics, per se, of evaluating employees and people that have worked for me and run it through human resources. And I always like you to have a measurable accounting ability in an area for employees to think about. Number one is always the first place that teams succeed on and employees fail at is communication. You'd think it would be the simplest aspect, but it's really the most dynamic today in our world where everything is global and we're changing areas of workspace and time space overall. If you think about it, employees kind of have to really think about clarity of reports and meetings of what's happening. And a lot of times, we'll talk about in a minute, measurement controls and ideas of how to understand if you are having clarity in your reports through actually using a measurement tool. And you can ask your employees to do this. We can look at communicating milestones. Are you reaching them at milestone points? Are you effectively communicating back to you as a manager? Are you giving them back clear advice, clear projections of what you need to stay on track? Or if you see things are off track, how to work them out or remeasure and understand what is happening. And a lot of times you can use these milestones as closing points in a project too, not just a final point to have lessons learned for the next milestone section. It's something I really like doing with my employees. Flexibility and scheduling. It goes along with communications because if you can't work with someone who's overseas because you have a child and you don't want to wake them up at 3 in the morning when you have to have a Skype conference or go to a meeting because you have employees in Brazil, you have someone in Poland, you have someone in Germany, someone in Japan, and the meeting time is this, it becomes a real problem space for you as an employee and as a manager to actually have you working in an agile team that function aspects are happening. If you look at today's IBM world, this is exactly what they do. They have agile teams with members all over the globe, so they have to be flexible in scheduling to make sure they're able to meet communications levels on the team. This comes back to kind of a global skill set and a tool set that's new for hiring somebody. You want to make sure that they have a package of skills, they've worked with these resources. If not, you have to provide training for them to be able to do their job effectively. Quality of work is usually what people think first of, but I like to go to communication because if you're having communication failure before you even start an interview, you probably want to think about whether this person is the right person for the job. When we think of equality at work as accountability, it comes to mind first for me. If the work is contracted out to a vendor, you want to make sure that they can be accountable for the amount of work at the deadline that you've placed on them so they meet all the milestones for other members of the team or other agile teams. In most cases, I like to say, think about the academics rubrics we use for an assignment. We ask you to make sure you put things in perspective, use a case study, use a resource from the library, cite clearly, make the amount of page quota that you have to do. You can do this the same thing and the same aspects of looking at quality of work of an employee and keeping them accountable. And this could be, are they time conscious? Are they making good use of their work hours? Are they meeting work schedules? Are they on time? Are they on time for work? Do they spend half their day on Facebook? These are all things that you can call someone into accountability for and make sure they're conscious of their free time on the internet or roaming, which we all have this now. The workday extends at home because we all have the digital leases of smartphones that we continuously work with. So it's kind of a blurred line where organizations are giving the freedom for employees to do their personal shopping or banking because they need to because they can't get to a bank at traditional 9 to 5 hours. So it looks into control spaces. Is the employee able to control how they handle and manage their time? Are they able to manage their personal issues and keep them outside of work time and keep a conscious knowledge of this? If you're having scope creep, are they being able to be aware of this and talk to you effectively as a manager? Or are you, as a manager, able to talk to them effectively and timely about keeping this on track and making sure this doesn't happen? Looking for measurements in there and quality control measurements. Are they able to collaborate? Effectively, teams have to be able to collaborate or they break into silos, which again goes back to our communications element and everything breaks down. Work stops. You start having information hoarding. Collaboration is key to getting jobs done. And again, another aspect is always enhancing that skills or tools. All of you are in school to enhance the tool set you have. Learn a little more. Add to the tool bag you have. Compliance issues don't seem to be a lot, but this is something to always think about and adding into your rubrics of how you would evaluate an employee. All organizations have core values. This is an area which I always implement. Are you following core values? Are you meeting our core values? Are you thinking about making sure that you communicate effectively? Are you appropriate in the workspace? Mission statements are something I like to have my employees write with their personal reviews. Have they actually maintained a compliance to their mission statement? If they say they're going to be on time to work every day, they're going to put in X amount into training, have they followed through with this? It makes an ownership statement as well. Are they able to keep and maintain relationships with other members on the team and yourself? Are they looking for effective tools to build the team, build themselves, help themselves along? Every organization has ethics, and a lot of times these ethics are industry standard, but other times there's ethics concerns that you have to go a little deeper. And today, especially in the United States, we're seeing a lot of things happening with ethics to where there's compliancy issues, to where unsaid rules are now being demanded upon employees. We can look at this as a gender issue. Are they being respectable to different genders? Are we looking for human rights and making sure that everything is in a line? So these are compliance issues, and it could go down to salary and pay to make sure that you yourself make sure the pay for each employee is correct for the job role and not for who they are as a person. Making sure that if they want to succeed into the next level, they are reaching the standards that the company has set forth in training, education, levels of experience, and not just on personal basis. This helps you in the legal realm to understand what your human resources departments can understand and help you with a lot about is understanding how to promote or unfortunately demote a person when they don't follow the ethical standards or the legal compliances that you have to. If you have a contract working with the government, there's very strict legal compliances. My employees are always held to the legal compliances because we are working with state contracts at all time. There was very strict requirements on the job, how they handle themselves in public, how they handle themselves with stakeholders, how they conducted the business. If they had third-party vendors working for them, they had to have a rigorous amount of compliance regulations on the third party to be able to use them and hire them and integrate their work inside of their contract themselves. But unfortunately, you as a manager, you're always looking at the compliance for everyone in this chain or the supply chain of whatever you're building. It could be a simplicity of a box, or it could be the information built into a gigantic code. Nevertheless, you have to make sure the entire chain is following compliance. Innovation seems like a standard idea, but today it's really becoming a valuable tool for employees to have and to use to move themselves forward. I've come back a lot on leadership and team building. Today, everything is about global teams, enhancing your skill set, enhancing your availability, being open to learning another language, being open to host peers that are from across the globe is something that's interesting. You might want to think about how you can integrate those thoughts in to build larger team exercises or build relationships. It might be something you fundamentally put into a core rubrics of hosting other employees from other countries so that you build deeper relationships. Innovations and skills are not just ones that you get in the soft skills, but they're also the hard skills. Are you able to learn new advancement tools that you need? These are easy check marks in a rubrics. You can set the amount or the time and space that an employee has to do this, or keeping compliance with their actual scheduled skills. Global innovations and adaptations go beyond just the communications level. And this today can be understanding another language, writing German, writing French. It might have to be something that you implement into your rubrics, and you have to think about this to make sure employees are building and adapting onto this innovation level. Accountability is always part of everything in all these aspects. But when I think about accountability, I place it back on the employee and say, do you have a quality control measure for what you're doing in your project? Are you self regulating yourself and able to measure this? There's a lot of different actions, and I'll come into this maybe next week or more. The Six Sigma idea and philosophy of quality control. I like Deming's 14 points. It focuses on consistency and understanding your purpose, just like writing a paper. That's why I'm asking a lot of people to clearly state problems and purpose statements. That way you can keep reflecting back as you write to your purpose to make sure you're on track. This is the same thing in the job roles, no matter where we go. We'll talk about Deming's a little more. I'm a big fan of his Dr. Edward Deming's 14 points. But accountability also comes into you as a manager. Are you able to hire effectively? And making sure that you take your personal realm and friendships out of a hiring position and hire for someone who effectively fills the need that you have. The tool set that you need has to be there so that it integrates easily in with your team. And unfortunately, if a person is not being accountable for their work, not following core values, not meeting milestones, are you able to document this yourself so you have measurable actions? And you have to set those parameters up in the actual job descriptions. If you miss X amount of days of work, if you miss milestones, if you're uncountable for your work, if you're inconsistent, and a measurable amount of this that says a person will be fired so they understand. And that goes back to the legal aspects, which a lot of the human resources today will help you build into your plans as a manager. And unfortunately, a large word we all hear is consolidating. If it comes down from senior management, are you able to consolidate your teams and think about who would be the best employee to keep and the reasons why? And again, it would come back to a measurable action to where you yourself need to have measurable actions to account for employees. Business continuity falls into this accountability. What happens if an employee dies? How can you manage this? It does happen. What happens if someone in midstream quits and you have a major milestone to hit? How can you consolidate the workforce to create business continuity? You have to have a business continuity plan, and subject to this, or unfortunately, natural disasters, which we're seeing a lot of today, or terroristic threats. How do you safely move your employees into a location to where they continue work? If there is unfortunately an attack, it doesn't just mean a virtual attack today, it can be a physical attack, which we see a lot in the news. Planning for these ideas is another major aspect of being a manager. In most cases, they're not talked about right away with employees, but a plan of action is put in place. You may bring in a specialist to help with these ideas. You may bring in someone to help and talk about how to handle a certain insurgency that might happen in your business or an attack on your virtual aspects. So accountability has to be something that you think about in the business continuity planning that you would want to project into the actual hiring of an employee. You have to go through training every year for sexual harassment. You have to go through training every year for safety. You have to go through training every year for software. These are all accountability parts that you need to build into your own personal plan and business continuity plan. So here's some tips about building a plan, about talking about hiring people, and thinking about some ideas that a lot of you probably have never done before, and creating a plan of action for an employee, or talking to the next level up about how to move yourself up by creating plans that follow these kind of key areas that I like to do. It's kind of a 5 area of actual evaluation key areas. So it's something that you can build and adapt for yourself and to think about down the road. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great day.